Hello, this is episode 6. Yeah, 6. This one's 5. Episode 6 of making the Bread.li website, or Bread.li. And I think the last thing we were working on was I cheekily put in bourbon, like at the end, just using, what did I use? Bower install. So I used Bower to install it and saved it to the project. And then afterwards, I would have to obviously get a pull request going so I could get episode 5 onto the site live, which concurrently pushed up everything that we did previously on the master branch. So the gulp dependencies that we put in, like rename and things like that, gulp rename, and the gulp file itself. And we changed over to using the HTML5 shiv that was brought in using Bower instead of the Google CDN. So we switched to that, and obviously put episode 5 up. That was it. That was the only stuff that was done off camera, as it were, or off screencast. And this was the issue that we were working on, or we got up to, and we installed Bourbon, which is a simple and lightweight mixing library for Sass. I'm not sure if I mentioned in the previous screencast, but Jekyll has Sass/SCSS pre-processing already built in. And it means that you can just write in Sass or SCSS, and it will process it into a regular CSS file just straight away, pretty much like how the HTML files process. They just convert them into something that's actually a correct format. And on top of that, I think it also does it for CoffeeScript, which is a JavaScript pre-processing language, or a pre-processed language, if that's the right terminology. I think it does do it. Let's do this. Oh, that was a bit dumb, wasn't it? Need to do this method where you do site and then search the site. Yes, Jekyll provides built-in support for Sass and CoffeeScript. I'm saying SCSS because I think it's just, I only properly found out the difference between them, and I've been using SCSS for the documentation site that I built using Jekyll. And I thought that, at some point the two of them are just merged into one thing, but I think they're just so similar with the basic capabilities, that people just kind of say them in the same breath. With Sass, as I found out, that you don't have to put the braces or the semicolon. It's very much more minimal language writing, a bit like how you kind of do it with YAML, where you've got just indentation to define what a property and value is in relation to a selector. Whereas SCSS is just it just looks like CSS, except with lots of variables and things like that in there. And apparently the plan is that SCSS will be the format that CSS will become eventually anyway. So you'll be able to do variables, so you can put all your colors into one value and reuse it and extend other things and all that kind of stuff. Whoever's listening to this, you guys have probably already had a look into that a lot anyway. It's been around for a while now. Anyway, tangent. How long did that tangent take? 3 minutes. Well, cool. It's fine. So I'm just having a quick read of this actually. Jekyll treats these files the same as a regular page, in that the output file will be placed into the same directory that it came from. As I said, yeah, it just works like it does with the HTML files. For instance, if you have a file named style.scss, in your site's source folder, Jekyll will process this and put it into style.css folder. Awesome. So they're all asked. And Bourbon uses Sass, but I believe this is SCSS. I thought this was SCSS. I'm a bit confused on that. Are people just naming them the same way? Maybe it's purely optional. Maybe they're one and the same. It's just a way of writing, I guess. Anyway, all right. So we've got Bourbon in there, and I definitely want to get neat in there. I said in the previous podcast that I do have my own grid structure that I do use for projects, and I like it. It's simple. It's essentially Twitter Bootstrap's grid structure without any of the other crap in it. That's the first swear word. And it works perfectly fine, except it's not. I haven't written it for Sass. I haven't written it I've only written it in less, which is like what I used to write in for preprocessors, and it's not flexible enough for what I want to use, because I've used percentages, and when you start nesting percentages, it completely messes up the system for grid structures and things like that. So I want to try something different, and I've always wanted to try this ThoughtBot stuff, and this seems the perfect opportunity to do so. I'm guessing that we found Bourbon on here. This is the Bower.io site, so I'm guessing if you put neat in, you can just do the same with neat. So I'm going to just be lazy and press up to find the command that we used. Oh no, it's gone. Well, anyway, we know it. So it's Bower install. Oh, whoa. Git pull. I always forget that. So that's updated our stuff. That's just pulled in the iframe, which I put in at work quickly via GitHub. I just edit the file on there and just do it on there and commit it. And it means that I can get the video up there pretty pronto. Right. We were doing Bower install neat save. Boom. Done. And that's been put into our package file. So we've got Bourbon and neat. Now bitters is another one. And I kind of started doing this stuff for my base thing. Like the grid structure I use is on GitHub on my account called Flynn, and I don't publicly say use Flynn because everyone else is doing all these grid structures, and I just made it so it was like a public place so I can just go and copy and paste it and start using grid structure quickly, so I can put stuff in places on a site and get running with it. And that I started to branch off to start doing typography as well. But there is a lot of typographic elements, and researching into how they should be properly presented is not challenging, but time consuming. And your opinion on what a superscript element should look like and what a checkbox should look like is very different to what others might think a checkbox should look like. So I kind of think, well, why don't we just start from the same page? And this seems like a adequate way of starting it. And bitters, I assume it's been quite widely used as apart from like Twitter Bootstrap and Foundation, and they come all as like one whole thing, so I can like turn off and on things all the time. Well, I want to do that all the time, and I just can't do it, so I need to find something that does. Right, let's install this thing, bitters. I've blabbed enough. It's not on here. Let's check out the GitHub repo. No reference of it on Bower. Right. Let's do a quick search for Bower bitters. See if it's. Here's an issue. Include Bower support. It would be nice to have Bower support. That's a reasonable request. Make a pull request for it. So this guy's made a pull request. Reference this issue. Put done. He asked for this, and it said it wouldn't make sense. And then this is C comment 30. Bitters isn't meant to be used like this. It's meant as a scaffold to help you start projects. Think of it similar to HTML5 boilerplate or Thoughtbot suspenders for Bourbon. Well, welcome to keep using it like this, but we have no plans of supporting this case for this time. The problem is that if it's bound to be PHP CMS, then find a way to keep the gen configuration within the CMS environment, blah, 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 blah. Since you should be changing the bitters files, since those files should have styles unique to your site, you would never want to override them with updated bitters. So it seems like bitters is designed to be thrown in to your project, like directly, and you edit it directly, as opposed to bringing it in with an asset. Because Bourbon is Mixin's library, so you don't change any of it. You just pull stuff in and then change stuff accordingly. And that's why it makes sense with Bower, because you're not making any changes directly to the files. And the same for Neat, because it's a grid structure. You're pulling it in the same way, like a Mixin's. So why can't you do that with bitters as well? Let's have a look at an example. These are all this. They want you to copy it in and then change it to how you see fit. How you see fit. And let's see how you're meant to use it. But you can install it as a gem. I, searching through the thing to find the latest. Right, so it says gone from Bauer. Overwriting not working. When I try overwriting the base accent color, red, it doesn't work. I put it on top of the sass. So he's got a variable in here that's changing, which I assume that's what bitters is just there, base. Bitters defines base accent color variable out of the box. So if you want to overwrite it, then you need to do it below the import. A much better approach would be to change the value inside the variables file. Instead of overwriting it, if you go to that route, I would not use Bauer, because running an update on your packages would then overwrite the changes in bitters. This is why we do not officially publish bitters as a Bauer package. I prefer Bauer. Bauer makes sense for things like bourbon and neat, because you should not change the files in those. But much less for bitters, because it's built to be changed by you. Overwriting bitters variables is overly complex and can cause issues. Can you define doesn't work? Is SAS throwing an error? If so, what is the error? If you're interested, here's an old pull request with a great discussion on why we recommend not using Bauer to install bitters. Okay. On the face of it, I could argue that putting bitters into a Bauer thing would be a good idea. You could then have a basis, and then you could put overrides over the top and redefine the fonts and the colors and things like that. But I guess they're arguing a point that it's fonts and they're very different for each project. And, you know, one person's Helvetica bold is another person's lightweight Courier or something. They're gonna look a lot different, and like half of the styles are gonna get redefined anyway, so it just takes all the efficiency out of it. So I can see why they think you should just import it in. The latest commit was 3 days ago. Oh, and that's in the Ruby project. I'm going to check the commits. The commits don't seem that a lot. Change selector to bourbon, all button inputs. I don't want to be out of date with the project. I mean, you could, even though this is not on Bower, you can still install repos with Bower. So you can do Bower install and then the repo address. So you can do the repo address or just the repo address. So I'll do that now just for fun because I can take it out again. So you can just do this, so Bower install. Hang on, let me open that up a bit more. And pull that up so you can see that. So we are installing and then the URL and then save. See, done. And it just pulls it in. And it names it. It names it as bitters because that's the name of the repo that it's got from the data. So yeah, you could quite easily install this with bitters. With Bower, but they don't want you to. They want you to do it and then change the variables. This is the bit that I've taken out of Twitter Bootstrap. This is the bit that I didn't like because it's just so like finicky. And I used just normalize and just like reset everything. But this seems to be like typographically sound. Look at this craziness. They're like calculating everything off everything else. There's your colours. Here's your font sizes, all based off 1EM. But what is the base font size? But what is 1EM? I suppose that you can just change that how you so wish. Or it's based upon something in the default of the browser. Alright, okay. I want to follow their thinking. And if it doesn't work, then we can always change that. And we can pull it all out. And as long as we comment this carefully and we import this correctly, then we can just change it or remove it. So we'll just put it into a style sheet, into the styles like directory or the CSS directory. And then it will just be imported in correctly. So, okay. So we need to install this. So you can do Bower uninstall bitters and save that. Okay, so now we can do git diff and we'll see that only neat has been added. But obviously there's been a comma added because it's a JSON file. Let me just check time again. 23 minutes already? God, this is mostly discussion on whether to put bitters in. Ugh. Let me just take a swig of this drink. Okay. Let's switch back to this site and have a look on how to import it. You're all set. Now add or remove bitters styles. Well, we're not using Gem for. We're not using Ruby to like import stuff and project manage it. So we are just going to drop it in like old school styley. And I believe the best way that we structure this is by creating a SCSS folder. And this one, because of the underscore, won't be referenced in the final site in this directory. It won't be pulled in. And this is where our styles will live. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check on my docs site whether I did do the same. Yeah, I called it SAS, but I'm going to call it SCSS. And we've got all these imports going on here. And then in the CSS directory, we've got a regular SCSS file. Well, not a regular SCSS file, an SCSS file, which will be then turned into a regular CSS file. And all it's doing is importing main, and I believe in this file, I'm got my main editing file here that's importing all of these. While this was okay to work with, I kind of preferred having my styles segregated from imports. So we should put all the imports into this SCSS file and then have another CSS file that's just us, that's just our stuff. And then that will import everything above it, and we'll be able to see exactly what we've done, and it will be segregated from everything else. I think that makes sense in my eyes. That does make sense. Okay. So this says like screen. Do we have a at print and at see? On the Jekyll site, when it says about imports, it uses extras. Assets. Here we are. So we can just use a styles file and it will result it, because I print one, we can do that layer, default styles, bish bash bosh. That'll be good. Right, we're coming up to half an hour. My tea's getting cold. Okie doke. Let's quit that. Git diff. That was it. So let's do this, and let's do git commit am. Reference our to-dos list here. So it's #10. Installs neat using power. Whoops. I missed the end quote. Oh no. Oh, I hate this. It's got the Q on the end. This has got the Q on the end of the commit message. There is a way to edit commit messages. Edit previous. There it is. See, I've searched for this before and I can't remember the command. Amend. Git commit -- amend. And then I can do this, where I can just go vim style-y and take that out, and then escape, and then colon, and then write and quit. So W and Q, enter, and it's sorted it out. Lovely. So let's tick them off. I shall push them up because the tick boxes aren't going to like be timed, so I'll just tick them as I'm doing them, and then push it up once we're done. So in here, we want to put bitters. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way with the old downloading method. Show in Finder. Here we go. It says style sheets. So this is variables, typography, tables, lists, grid settings. So that gets it from neat. Import neat helpers or neat helpers when not in Rails. Okay. Okay. I'm thinking I should put this into a whole like base, so it kind of so I put this into a whole bitters directory. Yeah, all as one. All as one. New folder. Bitters. I'll just copy that in. Job done. So we've got bitters. And now, what we do with time? 32. Now, what we need to do is we need to do some like filtering stuff, because we've got style sheets and we've got JavaScript files. And this is a problem I came up with before, because Gulp does a great job of taking one thing and putting it into another place, but it's not going to know the difference between a .js main bower file and a .scss main bower file. So we need a filtering method, and there is a Gulp plugin. Are they called plugins? There's a Gulp task package for it. Gulp file filter. Filter. Now, I did use one on the docs site. Sorry, I keep looking at this. I'm honestly not trying to show off with this site and keep showing that I've done this. I am using this because I forget stuff, like a long list of things to be able to do, and it's better just to look at your previous project and just go, there it is, and you know, you lift stuff out all the time. So this Gulp filter, I'm making sure it's the same name, so it should just be Gulp-filter, and this one's it. This is the same one. Great. And what's the kind of status on it? 2.0. Pretty popular. So let's install this. Get our thing in there. Clear this off again because there's so much going on. Get the browser next to it. So npm. Hang on. Git status. Or we can come back to that. We can commit files separately, can't we? So we can just commit those files in a second. npm install Gulp filter save. Boom. Done. So I'm going to do git commit, and I'm going to do this. Ooh. So I'm using the dot thing again to say everything in SCSS, and I'm hoping that's going to work. adds bourbon bitters to project. Error. It did not match any files. Maybe the dot, maybe I don't need the dot. Oh, they're new. That's why. So we need to do git add like this, and then git commit adds bourbon bitters to project. There we go. There's all those files. Next is the gulp filter thing. Yes, the next is the git filter thing. Git commit. Oh dear, we didn't add bitters to the thing, to here. Well, we'll tick it off anyway. Oh wait, we can do our amend method. Git commit amend. So we can do our thing again. So I'm inserting this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do fixes. Oh no, resolves hash 10 and escape :w q enter. Cool. Now we'll do git commit am, because there's only this, and it will be adds gulp filter to filter main bower files in gulp file.js. Git status, and then we'll do git push and the page didn't change then. Installs neat, installs bourbon. Look at that, eh? Looks so professional. Looks like they actually know what's going on. How are we doing for time? We're coming up to the 40-minute mark. Seems to be quite a common time for me to stop off. And I think we will stop off then. We have the gulp filtering in there. We need to now use that filter to filter out CSS and JavaScript files apart, so we're putting them into the right places. So we're using our Bower, our dependencies that we've imported with Bower, to take it from them and put it into our project, but in the right directories, and maybe treat them slightly differently. So we'll do that in the next one. See ya.